Namaskar. Hello and welcome to PGurus channel. I'm your host Sri Iyer. Monday night, 9 p.m. our Abhijit Iyer-Mitra time, and he is here to talk about a few topics before we jump into question and answer. But first, let us welcome Abhijit Iyer-Mitra. Abhijit, namaskar and welcome to PGurus.
Vetrivel and happy Pongal to everybody.
Thank you. And viewers, again, happy Pongal, happy Sankranti, happy Lohri, and all the things that take place on the 15th of January. First off, I want Abhijit's inputs on what is happening in Armenia. Why this sudden gesture from India to supply arms to Armenia? Can you touch upon this, the political as well as the other aspect that went into the decision?
So I think it was like 3-4 weeks old. I don't know why it's suddenly taken off in the thing. I think it it took off because the Azerbaijanis said that it would be an unfriendly act or whatever. Now the thing is, of course, India has always had issues with Azerbaijan for quite some time. The ruler there before Haidar Aliyev came to power, I forget what his name was. Let me just quickly Google. I think it was...
While you Google, I'll make a pitch for our viewers. Viewers, please like this video. I want to hit the 1,500 mark. We haven't hit that mark in a long time. And I want to really impress upon you guys that Abhijit is the fount of wisdom, that he has one of the sharpest brains. This is, no, I'm not complimenting, this is the truth. You may agree or not agree with his answers, but it is true that he's one of the sharpest brains around. All right, go ahead, sir.
So Azerbaijan, since its independence, has been quite pro-Pakistan. They've always been in this sort of Turkic triangle. They've taken very pro-Pakistan policies, and this isn't new. This has been for quite some time. And where you look at other post-Soviet republics, they're virulently anti-Islamist. So, for example, if you look at Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, Tajik, Kyrgyzstan, all of them, they crush Islamists. Azerbaijan has a very funny relationship with them, right? Azerbaijan is overwhelmingly Shia, nominally. But you go there is absolutely no portrait of any Ayatollah or whatever. There are no religious figures. So many people, there's a whole body of literature which believes that it's sort of a Shia in name but Sunni in deed, because they actually sponsor, host, and use a lot of Sunni terrorist organizations. They've been complicit in it with Turkey for quite some time. It's not new. And of course, unlike Turkey, which broke off ties with Israel, they've had long ties with Israel. Now, the question is, who supplies Armenia? Okay, Armenia tried hunting for things everywhere, but the problem is, Armenia has nothing to offer. They don't have gas. Azerbaijan is a major gas supplier. Armenia doesn't even have gas. So what does Armenia have? Nothing, realistically speaking. So they've been trying to get weapons for quite some time. They tried Russian weapons. They felt awfully let down by the Russians because in spite of having an alliance treaty with the Russians, the CSTO, the Russians never helped them when Artsakh was invaded last year by the Azeris. So they're now looking to expand their weapon supplies and things like that. They hope that buying arms from India will kind of get them diplomatic support. Unfortunately, the problem with India is India does not support Armenia diplomatically over Nagorno-Karabakh, which is called Artsakh. I prefer Artsakh because it's the Armenian name for it. So it's one of those things. Let's see what happens. I don't think... basically, India can always be counted on to disappoint, and I think India will disappoint Armenia ultimately.
Going to the next topic that I wanted you to touch upon, JoshiMath, landslide happening, very, very fast now. And there have been notices stuck to people on people's doors to evacuate. and evacuation is going on. They are putting them up in some temporary shelters and so on and so forth. But all of a sudden, the data around this has been completely blacked out. I mean, if the earth is shifting, don't you think the adjoining areas should also know so that there is some sort of an early warning system? Why do you think the government is trying to stifle the data?
I suspect to prevent panic, but I think that's very foolish, because what they should be doing is carrying out a study right now and carrying out the relocation plans right now. The entire area out there. I've been to JoshiMath when our school went on an expedition to Kedarnath and all these places. And the thing is, satellite-based has been deleted. Yeah. It's deleted. They in fact, ISRO got rogered badly by the cabinet. Somebody from the cabinet went and yelled at them and told them to remove it and not put up any more imagery and things like that. Of course, I won't take anything a alt news guy says, and you probably shouldn't be putting up alt news shits on your program either. But it is true that they removed that. It is true that somebody from the cabinet went and yelled at them at no more imagery. Now, look, what has been happening there is it's been unrestricted development. They have very weird definitions of development, right? You can't build multi-story. You can only build two-story, etc., etc. The problem then is when your population expands, instead of building up, you expand like that. You take up a lot more land. You're saturating a whole thing with water resources. The weights go up. You're lying on a ridge. Ridges are meant to move. Plates are meant to shift, etc., etc. A lot of this has been very much a case of overdevelopment, unchecked overdevelopment, very, very bad urban planning, which India suffers from across the board, including in Delhi and Bombay, and very, between lax and tight land laws where, the government can't come up with urban redevelopment and things like that, because you can't just take away land. There's no creative solutions to it and things like that. So there's very little you can actually do. It's not something that's started off now. What you're seeing in JoshiMath today is the consequence of the last 30, 40 years of unrestricted growth.
Okay, let's go to questions now. First question from Kanda Batata. When should rickshaws be phased out in India? Do you think they should be phased at all?
I think they should and should not. And I'll tell you why. Your petrol autos need to be phased out. What you do need to get is electric autos in there, because electric is one of those things which will really suit an auto really, really well. The issue is you could have made it, the thing is, I'm not a green fanatic, but I do see a new industry and the chance to exploit it. Okay. You create an industry out here. You say all autos will have to be electric, and then it forces everybody to move electric, and then you start electric battery manufacture here because you've created economies of scale. We're not doing that, right? I think auto and, of course, cars, but auto by itself, phasing it out, what does it actually yield, right? What is an auto aimed at? It's a lower disposable income market. So it is, in fact, the democratization of transport. And that's why I don't believe in phasing it out. On the other hand, I believe in modernizing it to the point where autos aren't the way they are. And they should have, proper meters and shit like that, where you don't negotiate for rates, where you can't just deny rides to people, etc., etc. But those rules are never enforced out here. I remember about 6-7 years back, there was a complaint number you could call every time an auto rickshaw denied your ride. And if you called that number, they would actually come and arrest the auto wallahs. And that's why apparently the auto wallahs switched and voted for Kejriwal. They're a big constituency of Kejriwal who subsidizes this kind of behavior by auto rickshaws. But of course, these days, Ola cabs have also started doing it. And Bhavish is the kind of guy, like Bhavish is mentally unstable, Nobody sticks around with him for more than 3-4 years, and they keep leaving him because he's deranged the way he deals with it. You saw how that entire Ola scooter thing was screwed up. There's absolutely no controlling Ola drivers. They can keep denying rides, whatever, absolutely no consequences. So, you don't look at, when you say, what would you do with auto rickshaws phased out? You're asking me a question in a silo, which actually has multiple things all around. You do need to have variegated transport. Okay, variegated transport is key. You will have buses, you will have cars, you will have taxis, and you will have autos. You cannot get rid of autos unless you find some more democratic source of point-to-point transport for people who have slightly more money than a bus, but not enough money to afford an Uber or Ola.
Kanda Batata again. Should India have humongous taxes on luxury cars? In S-Class in 2014 costed 1.3 crores on road, but now it costs 2 crores. Why is that?
Yes, we should have humongous taxes on luxury cars, because anything that is not produced in India, in my opinion, should be taxed fundamentally like this, especially in a low-income society. It's a very good idea. Taxes are dependent on engine capacity, right? It's all kinds of shit. It's a very stupid law. So, it actually prevents lower-end manufacturers from climbing up. For me, you should have taxes on the value of the car, not on the engine capacity and things, which, the bigger the car, the bigger, like a V12 engine or a V10 engine or whatever. We tax that. So we actually prevent the smaller guys from making or introducing performance cars in the Indian market because it gets taxed more. There's all kinds of shit with the taxation law, which is like truly bizarre. But that's one part of it. Should luxury be taxed? If it is imported, yes. If it is made in India, it should not. The problem with the S-Class is that the levels of automation on it are so high, it cannot be manufactured in India. The attention to detail and quality that you get simply cannot be replicated by Indian labor. Do you know how much a guy working on the factory floor in a Mercedes factory in Stuttgart would get? I don't know about Mercedes, but I can tell you my friend used to work at the factory floor of, Italian friend, used to work at the factory floor of Audi, and he was on the assembly line of the A8. Okay, this was about quite some years back. And he was telling me, he used to get something like about $54,000 a year, approximately. $54,000 a year is how many rupees?
A lot.
A lot. Right?
Yeah.
So let's look at what's the rupee.
$1,000 is 80,000 rupees. $1,000 is 80,000.
So 54,000 divided by 12 equals $4,500 a month into 80 rupees. He was making 3.6 lakhs a month. Okay, that's a lot of money. And that's not in addition to all the looking after and things. And if you become a floor level manager and things, you earn more than an engineer does in India. An IIT qualified engineer, you would go up to about $80,000, $90,000 very easily. Factory floor managers out there. So they're focusing on an extraordinarily high level of precision, which you can't duplicate in India, which you do then need to tax if it's not going to be manufactured in India. Especially, and for me, of course, nobody will tell you this, German cars are absolute shit. They're unreliable, they're unmaintainable, they have extremely high failure rates. Especially in India, they keep conking out, and because the supply chain is all black market, BMW especially, you know what they do, right? They, those engineers, because you're not allowed to see it when it goes in for maintenance. What they do is, they put in all old parts. They sell the first-hand parts for a profit on the black market. So you can actually get better parts on the black market than you can in BMW service. So this is a whole scam that's been running. It needs to be cracked down on, because actually this entire import tax thing, it's actually created a whole black market. But is that the import tax creating the black market, or is it the fact that Indians want unreliable cars for status purposes? Because honestly, the way you can drive a BMW or Merc or Audi on a German autobahn, you can't drive it anywhere else. I mean, you tell me in America, where can you drive at those speeds? Maximum on interstate highways, what, Shri, you can do what, 60 miles per hour?
70 miles per hour, 112.
112 is nothing for these cars. You press the accelerator down, it'll take you to about 150, 160 in no time at all. The BMW crash that happened, I think, last month or the month before last, which killed all 4 people, where they were doing 240. I have done about 180, 190 on the Autobahn. Me driving. I've been driven at about 210, 212, something like that. They're useless in India, but people buy them. And I think it should be taxed, yeah.
Next question, please. Prince wants to know, why does the West keep supporting Pakistan in its narrative? Is lobbying US Congress sole reason, or is there a geopolitical interest for both Europe and US despite India being ally against China?
Nothing's ever monocausal, it's lots of things, right? So first is they're very good at lobbying. Second, their politicians give Americans access, unlike India, which does not. Third, they keep using nuclear weapons to threaten. Their standard line is the moment Pakistan hits a financial crisis, you will see the standard set of strategic analysts come out and say, oh, Pakistan is a nuclear power, we cannot allow it to go bankrupt because we can't allow their weapons to go into the black market and things like that. Okay. Next, you also have the fact that America, they have a very, very long fuse even with bad allies. So you can have a totally duplicitous ally, but as long as that ally keeps giving you intelligence and has some rudimentary value in that it's not going to go over to the other side, which technically, if you look at it, Pakistan is. Pakistan may not be non-aligned vis-a-vis India, but between China and America, they're completely non-aligned. Have you ever heard China say, in case of a war with America, we expect Pakistan to side with us? No. Have you ever heard America say, in case of a war with China, we expect Pakistan to side with us? No. They keep saying it about India, but Pakistan is so smart, they've gotten away without having to commit anyone to anything. And the Americans like it that way. They don't want Pakistan going China's way, so they're happy to keep them just afloat, to keep them out of China's grasp.
Next question, please. Soham Majumdar wants to know, sir, if the entire fighter jet game in Himalayas is completely replaced by UAVs, will it deter India's geographical advantage, and how much your quality versus quantity theory holds into account in case of UAVs?
Babu, see, UAVs don't defy the laws of physics, no? They're fundamentally air breathing. Anything air breathing taking off from 10,000 feet will suffer from severe performance deficit. So air power, period, as long as it remains based on air breathing engines, will fundamentally suffer a huge performance deficit if you're taking off from 10,000 feet compared with average 900 feet of the gadgetic plane.
Next question, please. Soham again.
And sorry, 1 second. Just the previous question again. Quantity versus quality. You know, the Americans have this saying, we need amazing quality in great quantity. They haven't been able to crack that. But if you look at the kind of drones Russia is using in Ukraine, extremely cheap drones. You know, the Bayrak cars that Ukraine was getting, they're not cheap by any measure. But the Iranian drones, they're extremely cheap, relatively, $20,000, $30,000 per drone. Okay. If you use a lot of them, sure, it can change a lot of things. But of course, you know, this is India. We're never going to go down that path. And China loves its technology. It's not going to go down the path of cheap drones either.
Next question, please. Soham again. How long will it take India to transform itself from a strategic partner to an ally of USA? And what are the advantages and drawbacks of being a Western ally?
Time for being a Western ally, Gaya, boss. Okay. We are not going to transform to an ally of a USA in my lifetime. The advantages were that you could get unrestricted access to the American market. Okay, they would have transferred production to you, etc., etc. And who made China? America made China. Do you think China could have been China without access to the American market or the EU market? No. And they got access to the EU market only because America allowed it. Now, if you were, like I said, nothing in a silo, being an ally of the USA, how? Be an ally of the USA if you get that promise that everything, all American supply chains that are in China will be shifted to India, then sure, heck yeah. But the time for that gaya. We're now moving into 3D manufacturing very soon. Are you even going to be able to replicate that? I doubt that very much. Of course, China is going to get hit very hard, but America has been saying that for the last 30 years. Since 1990, they've been saying, come. Because in 1990, they realized, after the Soviet Union collapsed, they realized China is the next big threat. We were like, no, socialism, ye karenge, wo karenge. What prevented us from doing what China did, becoming a great industrial power? Our own, we did it to ourselves, no? So, right now, there is no great advantage to being a Western ally, because at our level of human development, we cannot operate Western weapons. Heck, the Ukrainians, who supposedly have a higher development than us, can't operate those weapons. Okay. And you've seen how the Russians have overcome every single wonder weapon that the West has been giving them. Have you heard of the Bayraktars in the last 6 months? No. They were big news the first 2-3 months. Then Javelins became big news next 2-3 months. Then HIMARS became next news for the next 2-3 months. Today, you don't hear about that at all. Now they're saying, oh, Challenger tanks will be the next big weapon. You will hear about Challenger tanks for the next 2 months, and then you'll stop hearing about Challenger tanks once the Russians learned how to defeat it. So right now, you have to look at Ukraine and see, you may get quality weapons, but do you have the training to absorb them? Do you have the industrial supply chains to absorb them? Do you have the communications to absorb them, etc., etc.? You do not. Second, if you get stuff from the West, it will be in drips and sobs. Okay. Fourth, if you become an ally, you cannot carry out an independent foreign policy. You can't play off Russia against China, against America, etc. You will have to impose all those sanctions and everything like that. Which is why Israel is not a formal ally of America. Remember, there is no American commitment, formal commitment to defend Israel. The commitment is purely because of the Israel lobby in America. There is no formal thing, which is why Israel is able to stay away from antagonizing Russia. The last government did not, but Netanyahu's back to the old thing. Okay, next, Prince.
Prince wants to know, why was widow remarriage prohibited in many upper caste families? What purpose would this serve in such an era? What does it mean? Modern claims of Brahmanism and patriarchy are true?
Yes, of course they are. Look, widow remarriage was, for whatever reason, I don't know. I've never actually delved into the economic reasons for it. But a man was allowed to remarry. There was no restriction on a man remarrying, right? A woman wasn't, because a woman was fundamentally seen as property. Now, was it Brahminical? I don't know, because many communities practice that widows should remarry. Patriarchy, yes, absolutely. In an agrarian society, you're bound to be patriarchal. There is no agrarian society that is not patriarchal. There are trading societies that are non-patriarchal. There are nomad societies that are non-patriarchal. There are very few pastoral societies which are non-patriarchal. But agrarian societies are by their very nature fundamentally patriarchal.
Next question, please. Abhishek wants to know, sir, your views on Shameema Begum issue, UK ISIS bride. Should she be brought back to UK as she may be a gold mine of intelligence? And any updates on Kerala ISIS brides who are struck in Afghanistan?
Look, Kerala ISIS brides come up with a law. Either you strip them of citizenship. If you're not stripping them of citizenship, you have to provide them the protection that is due to an Indian citizen, number one. Number two, Shameema Begum is already back in the UK. Okay, she knew what she was doing. She went there, she got disillusioned, and she returned quite some time back. This is not new. The outrage now has been because of the documentary that the BBC is making about it, and she's made a lot of money off of it, which they believe is wrong. And look, kids make mistakes, boss. She was a minor. If you accept the legal definition of a minor, You have to accept that she did not have agency. She was a kid who made stupid mistakes. If you want anything else, then change the law of minority.
Next question, please. Maliban Bhattacharya. First question, why does Israel support Azerbaijan against Armenia? To add, is Turkey's indigenous defense industry at par with USA, Russia, and China?
Okay. So Israel, Azerbaijan, very, very old thing, right? First, Armenia made a huge mistake in that it did not diversify its ties. It didn't want to make the same mistake that Georgia was, trying to be super independent and all of that, because they knew the Russians wouldn't tolerate it. So they never diversified their ties. First lesson in non-diversification of ties. Huge mistake made by Armenia. Number one. Number two, Turkey and Israel were very close at one point of time till Erdogan came. Okay, and Azerbaijan sought Turkish support in that sense. And so Turkey introduced the Azeris to the Israelis. And because the Azeris were willing to diversify, they were thrilled to get Israeli weapons. And this was in a time where, Muslim countries refused to recognize Israel. Azerbaijan is a Shia country, remember, and the biggest enemy Israel has in the region is Iran, which is a Shia country. So they were essentially defying the Iranians. It was a statement of independence. They were defying the Iranians, saying, no, we have good ties with you, but we're going to have very good ties with the Israelis. It was a defiance of Russia, saying, look, boss, we accept your big brother and all of that. We'll keep lots of Russian weapons, but we also want to buy weapons from elsewhere. So they did. So it was a sort of diversification that Azerbaijan did. So this relationship with Israel has been 20, 25 years old, which the Israelis are friends. Agar tumne hamare saath dosti bana li, they're just not going to discard you one fine day. Armenia never sought Israeli help. So, how is it Israel's fault? Armenia did lots of stupid things. They're paying the price for it. Now, Turkey's indigenous defense industry is very, very good, but it is nowhere at par with America. It is nowhere even, I would say, at par with Russia. It is relatively at par with China. If you notice, they still need key technologies like engines they have to import. Their main battle tank had to be built for them by the Koreans. Their artillery had to be built for them by the Koreans. The
North or south?
South,
North
obviously. North mein kya hai? North is stuck in 60s technology. South, obviously. The fighter aircraft is being built with the assistance of the Koreans, right? So they are nowhere near. They still do not have independent propulsion, though they have made huge strides in missile propulsion. But even if you look at their boats, for example, the missile boats and things like that they build, most of the weapons are Western. The guns are Western. The missiles, they put Turkish, but the electronics on it are largely, the quality electronics on it are all German or Italian.
Next question, please. Vamsi wants to know, do you think dual citizenship will work? Because there's one big con right now. The government is getting rid of the left with single citizenship.
No. See, most of the money of the right wing, right wing is actually foreign. You know that. There's big foreign funding for the BJP and things like that. Citizenship has very little to do with this left or right. Okay. There are benefits to dual citizenship. There are downs to dual citizenship. The down is that Americans can basically use it to destabilize your society. So I, as a rule, oppose dual citizenship. I generally think a country the size of India should only have single citizenship. Like in America, if you aspire for a government post, you have to be a single citizen. And I think there are things here like anything to do with the public sphere, anything to do with a strategic industry, or anything to do with government must be single citizenship. But other than that, I do think citizenship should be opened up.
Next one, please. Maliban Bhattacharya wants to know what prevented US from expanding its territory further south in Mexico and further north in Canada.
Well, with the Brits in Canada, they came to an understanding, because remember, they first kicked them out in the war, then they finally came to a peaceful settlement with them. There was, I think, the War of 1812, where the British came down from Canada, they captured Washington, and they burnt the White House and the Capitol building down.
Yes.
Yeah. So it was one of those wars which just went on and on and on and on, which they went, ultimately, the northern wars, they just tired out. That was it. They just got tired. It was incessant warfare that continued for 30, 40 years. And they finally said, okay, this is the border. Let's finish it off here. Right? This was number one. Number two, in Mexico, why did they go further south? Well, they didn't go further south because if you look at a map, you will find that that is where the Mexican desert begins. There was nothing much to be gained. If you look at Manifest Destiny, it was meant to be from coast to coast, not the entire continent. So the vision was always an expansion to the west, not an expansion to the south. There was a very strong movement for a complete continental America. You can call it the expansionist party, I guess, but it didn't succeed. It was always deemed as being too unrealistic. And the moment you come to Mexico, if you start going to the southern areas, you cross from Texas, it's desert. You cross from New Mexico, it's desert. You cross from California, it's desert. And they're very brutal deserts. You know, those deserts, they're nasty. The Sinaloa desert is really nasty. It would have been foolish to sustain a campaign out there. So they captured what they wanted. They captured what the territories that they believed were rich in gold or rich in slaves or rich in produce. Because you yourself will see this if you've traveled, that parts of Texas are extremely fertile and green, right? So they got what they wanted. That was it.
Vamsi wants an update from you on Russia-Ukraine war, and also did
I
the
can't give an
CIA
update
kill...
on...
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I can't give a Russia-Ukraine update, boss. It's just too much happening at the moment. Did the CIA really kill Kennedy? I don't think so. Wasn't it the FBI?
Yeah, Edward Hoover is still the director. And that
He's not still the director. He died at that time. Yeah, Edgar Hoover was.
Yeah.
He's crooked, corrupt. He could have done it, sure.
Next one, please. Abhishek wants to know what will be the future of Israel-US relations as Bibi is back to power with extreme right-wing coalition. Is Iran nuclear deal almost dead?
Yeah, Iran nuclear deal is almost certainly dead, because the Iranians are pissing off the Americans more and more by supplying the Russians. And Bibi is actually exacerbating it. Right now, Bibi is furious with Biden because remember, the only reason Bibi was kicked out, the right wing won the last election also, boss. The only reason he kicked out was because Biden put their power. They wanted Bibi out because they found Bibi was too close to Trump. Okay, so they wanted Bibi out. He hates Biden. He hates the Democrats. So he's going to do everything he can to screw things over. He's not going to allow a normalization of ties with Iran. And he and MBS are buddies in secret. So they will push Iran to the breaking point to see to it that Iran ups its supplies to Russia. And there'll be no prospects of a return to the JCPOA again.
Ishan Sharma wants to know, what are your predictions for the UK election based on the current scenario? Will Rishi Sunak as the PM face work in Conservatives getting the Hindu votes? And is Rishi Sunak pro-Hindu?
Nobody in the Narayana Murthy family or married into the Narayana Murthy family is pro-Hindu. The Narayana Murthys are pro-Narayana Murthy. Okay, this is number one. Number two, they are all social climbers, the entire brood, including the Sunaks. Number three, the Conservatives already
Define
had
a
the Hindu
social
vote the
climber.
last time.
Can you define a social climber?
Sure. A social climber is somebody who, in addition to social upward mobility, craves the need for social validation. So being socially upwardly mobile is a very good thing. But in addition to being socially upwardly mobile, if you're so insecure that you need validation, where you have to buy validation, you have to throw money people's way so that they sing songs about you and claim that they're your great friend, etc., etc. That is a social climber. Okay, so social mobility, good thing. Social validation, bad thing. Social mobility plus social validation equals social climber, bad thing. Okay, that's the way it works. Where were we?
Yeah, will he win?
Okay, Conservatives with the Hindu vote. So look, Conservatives will anyway have the Hindu vote because Labour turned so anti-Hindu. But Keir Starmer has fixed that. Remember, Labour is the party that came out with the first statement on Hinduphobia. The Conservatives have not come out with a statement of Hinduphobia. The Conservatives did squat when the Hindus were getting attacked in Leicester. Rishi Sunak didn't open his mouth on Leicester. He's opened his mouth on grooming, which is a British thing, but he did not support Hindus. Remember that, right? So I think I'm seeing a significant loosening of the vote, of the Hindu vote for Conservatives, number one. He is definitely not enthusing the rank and file of the Conservatives. I think if you go in for elections today, Conservatives may win by a whisker, really. Last time they got thrashed. Remember, Bojo thrashed the living daylights out of them. This time it won't be a thrashing. Maybe Labour will win. I would say 60-40. 60 Conservative, 40 Labour.
Next question from, I don't know the name, Al-Aj or AJ. Abhijit, how did Christianity become majority religion in Korea, and why is Buddhism declining and Christianity growing in East and Southeast Asian countries?
So Christianity has a long history in Korea, right? I think the last empress or whatever also converted to the lady who was killed by Japanese troops in the imperial palace itself, became a Christian. They basically went in with education and things like that. They said, we will give you the Western education required for you to compete with Japan. That was a very important thing. Then remember, Christianity blossomed in Korea when there was no hope. Remember, South Korea was the poor Korea till 1979. Okay, it is only in 1979 that South Korea overtook North Korea. Through the 50s and 60s, South Korea was an absolute shithole. People were dirt poor. And those are the conditions in which Christianity grows. Okay, but, today, it has stopped growing in Korea. Most Christians don't even identify as Christians. They've gone the Western way, where they've become a post-religious society, right? Buddhism, on the other hand, is not declining in Korea because Buddhism isn't very fanatical in that region. It's more a sort of aesthetic, esoteric kind of thing. So I have a lot of Korean friends who go to a Buddhist temple because they find the entire ceremony and things much more aesthetic and in keeping with Eastern values and things like that. And yes, Christianity is growing in East and Southeast Asian countries because it provides a theology. Okay, a lot of Southeast Asian Buddhism is, I won't say lacking in theology, but certainly lacking in, it's an esoteric theology. It's not a day-to-day theology. There's nothing about, there is good in suffering. The suffering man will go to heaven. It is tougher for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the gates of heaven, etc., etc., etc.
Next question, please. Ishan Sharma again. Abhijit, I have seen the Delhi government and Punjab government not give salaries to their employees on time. Why is it not being reported at all? And do all other state governments do the same, especially the BJP ones?
Yes, this non-giving of salaries is very common, by the way, but I haven't seen it. Like the local teachers in my school in Delhi, not my school, my neighborhood school, are very happy. They all seem to have gotten their salaries. But yes, I have heard about this lack of salaries. But nobody reports non-payment of salaries. No, it's actually it's more common than you might think. Huh?
Simple Life wants to know, have you read A.S. Dulat's new book or saw his interview with Karan Thapar? I got the impression that Dulat is bitter or jealous of Ajit Doval.
I know Dulat. I've spoken to him a lot. So I know his views. I mean, he's given me a lot of stories. So I didn't need to read the book or see the interview. He could be bitter or jealous of Ajit Doval. Yes, I agree. Sure. I think nobody likes becoming irrelevant. No, the government doesn't talk to him. The government doesn't listen to him. They made him irrelevant. So he's bound to be bitter, especially when your junior has become national security advisor and you have not.
Simple Life wants to know, Pattabi Sitaramayya came up with the story of Brahmins kidnapped Aurangzeb's child, so Aurangzeb destroyed 1,000 Hindu temples in Varanasi. Is it true? Conrad L. says in an interview.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. Yeah. Abhishant Shetty wants to know, Abhijit, what do you think about population control as it always ended in disaster and people depended on government?
Yes, I have always opposed population control. Look, population is an organic thing. You can't expand population and you can't decrease population as and when you choose. Okay, none of these population expansion. Iran went in for population explosion after Khomeini took over. It's ended them with massive sociological problems, a massive drug problem. Okay, China is going in for population control, and that has landed them up in huge problems. Population growth must always be organic. You control population by providing services; it controls itself. The more secure people feel, the less kids they have. The less secure people feel, the more kids they have. Okay, as in the less social security that they feel they have. So it's a function of, I mean, people are not stupid, no? So it's basically you're doing something which is at discordance with your economic capacity, because people automatically adjust to that economic capacity. So yeah, I've always opposed population control.
Abhishant Shetty wants to know, Sriji, what do you think about WWE sale to Saudi Arabia Public Investment Fund? I have not read on this, Abhishant. I don't know. Do you know?
No.
Sorry about that. Mr. Lee wants to know, studies now show positive correlation between growth of data generation and jobs. Should government invest in deliberate data gathering, 3D, such as 3D seismic, LIDAR, hyperspectral imaging, etc., to generate jobs?
Okay. See, the thing is, this is like infrastructure. Okay. Everybody will tell you if you build infrastructure, it will grow. Infrastructure will grow if all your other factors of production like labor, regulatory mechanisms are all in order. If you just build infrastructure by itself, it won't grow. So you can collect 3D, LiDAR, hyperspectral imaging to make the quality of decision making better. But if your fundamental decision making is already shit, then there is nothing that 3D seismic, LiDAR and all of that can improve, boss. Impossible. Next
question, please. Mr. Lee again, how are you using ChatGPT in your daily work routine? Can such instances of language models in Indian languages be used as large language models be used as a pedagogical tools to bypass poor teaching in India?
I have been trying to get into ChatGPT for the last month or so, and every time I go there, it says we are at full capacity. Please come back later.
Om Patel wants to know, what are your thoughts on the political situation in Peru?
The classic situation in all South American countries. What happens is the president overreaches himself, then parliament overreaches itself and goes in for the kill. I mean, anybody should have known that what President Castillo did was going to end up like this, no? Now, if he doesn't know his own limitations, what did you expect was going to happen? Right?
True,
so
true.
That's, and okay, I don't like what Parliament has done, but Castillo was no exact Virgin Mary or anything. Huh? He was an A-grade crook himself.
Next question from Om Patel again. What are your thoughts on Stephen R. Brown and his book on history?
I haven't read.
Revant Reddy wants to know, we are still a homophobic society. What was the tipping point that transformed India from inclusive society to homophobic? By the way, the award of Mitra has homocritic, meaning love affair between Agni and
Homoerotic.
Mitra. I'm sorry, homoerotic.
Well,
Oh, sure.
Agni and Mitra were brothers, Baba. So I think BC could be interpreted in a whole different way. But anyway, no, I think it was Varuna and Indra who had the love affair, not Mitra. But what transformed India, we're not a homophobic society. We're not homophobic even remotely in the Western sense of the word, where you'd be killed for being a homosexual. Okay. Here, at most, you'll get derision for it. At worst, you will get derision for it. You definitely don't get killed for it. You get derided, you get bullied, and that's about it. If at all that. Okay. In most places that I know, the more the social segregation, the more they're up for this kind of flings and things like that. So we're not a homophobic society in the Western sense of the word. Is there derision of homosexuals? Yeah, sure. It's a cultural thing in some places where hypermasculinity is present. Sure. But we're still a very inclusive society. Tell me any other third world country, third world pre-industrial country that has legalized, decriminalized homosexuality the way we have without any resistance. What resistance did you see to it? The only people resisting it are fringe organizations. You've seen what Mohan Bhagwat's interview has also said, no? He's completely fine. He doesn't want a celebration of LGBTQ, but he's like, we'll do whatever you want to lead a normal life. It shouldn't be an issue.
Right.
If you want us to come march in Pride, I'm sorry, it's not going to happen. But if you want to lead a normal life where you marry the man or woman of your dreams in a same-sex relationship, or a trans person in a alternate sex relationship, that's fine.
Next question, please. Mandar Karnik wants to know, what is the reason for the slow movement of reforms in India in Modi 2.0? Fundamental, what are the problems for lack of reforms?
Bad inputs. Bad inputs, severe bureaucratic control. Do you know Gautam Chikarmani wrote his book, his paper for ORF, Jailed for Doing Business in India? I highly recommend all of you read it. So he got tasked with, setting right a lot of things. He was asked for his advice, because when the PMO read it, they immediately called him and said, wow, we didn't know all these things. Tell us more. The bureaucrats shat on everything he wrote. They're furious with him. And they're trying to scuttle everyone or dilute everything. Apparently in everything they say, oh, he's lying, he's exaggerating, this, that, whatever. Now, when you have this kind of a bureaucracy, I blame it on Modi, because ultimately Modi chooses the bureaucracy. He's responsible for what he chooses. But that is your problem. It's the babocracy.
Next one, please. Rik Jyoti Hathi, how was Soviet school education, your experience?
I was in the American education system, not in the Soviet system. But from interactions with all my Russian friends in those days, it was fantastic. They were culturally much more aware than we were. Mathematically, they were very, very good. I was always in awe of them. But my memory of it was, see, I don't look at it from the point of view now. All my conversations were with friends in the playground while you're playing on the seesaw and slide and swings and things like that. So my experience was that of a 7, 8, 9-year-old without absorbing what the larger sociological implications were.
Next question, please. Revant Reddy wants to know how has Nirmala been in handling economy comparatively? Though not splendid, is it at least worthy of having hope?
Yeah. Look, I don't think in the last 15, 20 years we've had a bad finance minister. Let's go through the list of finance ministers and let's just check if there was anybody who was bad. List of finance minister of India. Okay. So Nirmala Sitharaman, she was good. Arun Jaitley was decent. Piyush Goyal was serving finance minister. He was decent. P. Chidambaram was decent. Manmohan Singh was decent. Pranab Mukherjee wasn't the best. Okay, so I withdraw what I said. Pranab Mukherjee definitely wasn't the best, but he wasn't bad. Jaswant Singh was very good. Yashwant Sinha was very good. I.K. Gujral was terrible actually, but the economy actually grew under him, one of the fastest. When I look at this list, till you go to Madhu Dandavate, the person you can say was genuinely bad was Madhu Dandavate, who was finance minister of India from December 89 to November 1990, less than 1 year. He was the last bad finance minister we had. And you know what happened after him? That is why you got the economic reforms and things like that. So, we've not had a bad finance minister, so she's fine. I mean, things should be happening a lot faster, but at least they're happening, no? That's good. I don't think she likes Chidambaram at all.
I'm not taking the bait.
Look,
Next question,
you can be a crook and you can be good. Okay? They're not mutually exclusive. Lee Kuan Yew was corrupt. Everybody knew Lee Kuan Yew was corrupt. But Lee Kuan Yew was also very, very, very good.
Ask Abhijit. Sachin wants to know, what are your views on Mr. Ankit Shah's geopolitical analysis? His predictions often come true.
Never heard of him. Who's he?
Me too. I don't know. Sorry, we are not as informed as you think we are. Guts, the black show sportsman, wants to know, do you think this government will make the judicial reforms and remove the collegium, or like always disappoint us?
I hope for the former, I foresee the latter. But generally, when you have a minister and a vice president hammering away every single day at the illegality of the collegium, I do believe the government intends to go ahead with it.
Venkatrama Muthuswamy wants to know, Setu Seaway through Park Straits, will it be economically viable and technically feasible?
No, it's never going to be technically feasible, sure. Except, the silt deposits there are so high, you will have a lot of desilting to keep doing, because it's a simple thing. In that way, the way the sea works, do you know Marina? I want you all to Google Marina Beach. It's Asia's second biggest beach, or the world's second biggest beach. It was created entirely because the British built Madras Harbour. You put one promontory into the sea, the amount of silting that happens is obscene in that particular area. You put something out, the silting required is going to be obscene. So I don't think it is technically feasible, and that is very shallow. It is a coral reef. It is ecologically sensitive. It is one of the most pristine beaches. If you go down south, what is it? Ramanathapuram. What is the district?
Ramanathapuram.
Yeah. They are as good as Maldivian islands. Do you know that? You know those white blue seas. Let me try to find an image. Ramanathapuram beach. I don't think people even realize how beautiful the sea there is. Even in Rameshwaram, the sea is stunning. Yes. I can't find a good image, but I would urge all of you, if you're in Madras, to drive down to Ramanathapuram and see the beaches out there. They're better than any, not better, they're as good as any Maldivian island. You can walk for a whole kilometer out into the sea and it's crystal clear, white sand below your feet. You'll get the occasional shark.
That shallow? It's that shallow?
Yeah, it's that shallow. It's that shallow. Just pray it's not a bull shark or a tiger shark that comes up to you. Mostly they're harmless sharks out there. But if it's a bull shark or tiger shark, assume that Lord Rama has accepted you as a sacrifice to him. But you should die bravely feeding the animals. But it's stunning. So economic viability, I can tell you emphatically, it is not economically viable. Madras is not economically viable anymore, boss. Were it not for the car industry. Okay, the car industry is what makes Madras economically viable. And even there, the amount of piloting and slowing down you would have to do, people don't realize the slowing down costs money. Why do planes fly as fast as they humanly can? Do you remember once upon a time there was a speed limit? The government imposed a speed limit of 670 kilometers on domestic flights. Till they realized it was too, which is why the Delhi to Madras flight used to take 3 hours, 20 minutes or 3 hours, something like that, as opposed to the 2.5 hours that it should take. And speed is money. Speed means you're much more fuel efficient. You have to slow down here. You have to wait for a pilot craft to take you through, because it won't be free sailing. You'll have to be piloted through. The piloting, there are piloting charges, etc., etc., etc. It just makes a heck of a lot more sense that you steam around full steam around Sri Lanka and dock at Madras direct. It just does not make economic sense for that huge distance, almost 100, 120 kilometers, for you to be slowing down, being piloted through in extremely shallow waters.
Next question from Magnet Ranga. We'll take maybe 2 more questions and then wrap it up. You talked about the flawed urban development. You are right. Can it be blamed on corruption alone, or the planning itself is also flawed? What are the other possible causes and any remedy in sight?
Look, it's mostly, there is a lot of corruption, of course. I mean, construction is the most corrupt industry in India. It's more corrupt than anything else. But the planning is fundamentally flawed. I know for a fact Hardeep Puri wanted a full national urban redevelopment. The planners just didn't get the idea of a high-rise. They didn't get the idea that, see, they've all been brought up in these old British concepts. Planning in India today is based on precepts set about in 1910, 1911, when Delhi was being planned by Lord Curzon. Okay. They have bizarre ideas. I just want you to go and see these buildings, these new government accommodations outside INA Market in Delhi. Okay. They had the opportunity to put central air conditioning and solar. They did not. They had the opportunity to make it a carbon neutral building by putting wraparound balconies throughout to reduce the sun falling directly on the walls. They did not. They had the opportunity to minimize energy loss by putting double glazed windows. They did not. There were every single norm of good construction, green construction, energy saving construction that could have been implemented was not. And they've put it in an area where your Barapulla highway is coming off into the inner ring road, where there is a hour and a half jam getting off that road every single day. This is how badly they planned it. Because the person planning the road didn't plan the building. And the fellow planning the building didn't plan the metro station, because all 3 of them are intersecting. That government building there, with about 5,000-6,000 people living in there, which causes a jam every single day for you to go into the offices. A jam every single day coming off the Barapulla bridge.
Is it Barapulla or
jam
Barakamba?
Barapulla. not Khamba.
Okay.
There was construction for the metro station. Once the metro station there is up, it's going to get even worse.
Because more people will start using the metro from even further up.
Yeah, it's not the metro. It's the autos and cars that will keep lining up there. And as it is, there is Delhi Heart out there. So let me share my screen.
Yeah.
Share screen, window, this window, share. I'm going to do maps.google.com. Okay, I'm in Chennai right now, INA market. And let's do satellite, Okay. Now you see this. This is INA market. Let me move this up. Okay. So this is your ring road, right? This is the Barapulla. Now people coming off the Barapulla bridge every day face severe traffic jams. You will see jams all the way. They put a coming off a major arterial right at another, intersecting at another major arterial, which was already getting blocked. Okay, and this is the arterial that takes you all the way to Noida. So this entire arterial comes and intersects out here. Then this is the government block. These are offices here and these are the housing here. They go up to about 15-20 stories. Built near a metro rail without any kind of sound insulation or glazing, which means none of these offices, these are the posh ones here. They are the 4 or 5 story bigger houses. None of those poor chaps are ever going to get a good night's sleep. Okay, so all your decision making for any officer living there is going to be terrible. Then you have Delhi Heart here, which is always a super busy area. There's always an auto jam out here. Then you have the metro station out here, which now has a new line coming out here. This was blocked by construction. It's going to get a lot worse because it's going to get swamped with the new lines coming out there. And then right here you have AIIMS, All India Institute of Medical Sciences. All the medical shops are opposite it here. So this is one horrible traffic accident zone because you don't have, do you know where they built the pedestrian bridge? Should have been built here so that people can buy medicines and come up here. You know where they built the pedestrian bridge? A full kilometer to the south. Here somewhere. I'll show you. The pedestrian bridge is almost here. No, here. In the middle of nowhere, they built the pedestrian bridge, a good kilometer to the south. So if you want to cross, they want you to come all the way here and then go all the way back up here when your relatives are dying in hospital. Okay, so this is the kind of planning that they do. It is shocking planning. This is the product of all your IITs and shits getting into government.
All right, we're up 1 hour and more. I think we should call it a day for today. We will collate all the unanswered questions and have Abhijit take a shot at them. Last week also we haven't done that. So Abhijit, Sachin will be working with you sometime during the week and please help us out. Thank you so much, viewers, and thank you so much, Abhijit. And please like, share and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to click on the bell button for notifications. Namaskar. Vel, vel, vetri vel.
Vel, vel, vetri vel.